play slightly more hands.
King 6 suited for Antonio.
More than good enough to defend the big blind.
And that's exactly what he does for an extra 3,500. Heads up to a flop. Oh boy.
Obviously a big flop for both players. Pather flopping top 2 pair and Antonio with an overcard and the king high flush draw.
He's checked it over to Ganesh, who's betting 7,500.
Now we've seen Pather in the past make slightly smaller than, I would say, standard bets post-flop. This is actually a little bit bigger, at least, than his pre-flop raise size. I think Antonio should pick something up from that, especially since he's an amateur and probably his continuation bet frequency will be lower than most players. I would be more likely to just check and call with this draw rather than be willing to check raise.
Well, Antonio has check raised. 22,500 is the number.
I think at this point, with Antonio check raises with this much equity, and I'm all in.
And Pather is putting Antonio all in as Fandiari makes the call and gets a look at top 2 pair.
I think Antonio could have considered folding, but it seemed obvious that once he decided to check raise, he had already decided to be willing to commit his chips if Pather did move in.
Well, Esfandiari, worse than 2-to-1 dog here.
Yeah, Antonio much would have preferred Pather to have a hand like ace-queen, obviously, where his king would be live. Now, he's really just looking for a heart.
4 clubs on the turn, no help. Here comes the river. Can the man who has invested 200K stay alive? He cannot. Right color in the wrong suit, and the amateur, Ganesh Pather, has eliminated the all-time winningest tournament player in poker history, Antonio Esfandiari, who heads down to have a disappointed chat with Lynn.
Oh, Antonio, the second bullet didn't pull through. Nope. Now all your chips went to Ganesh. How do you think he's playing?
I think he's playing good, and he's a local, so you got to root for the local guy.
Exactly. Home ground advantage.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great to see you play. Thanks so much for chatting to us. Thank you.
Lynn with the double thank you, as we're down to 6 players now. Button is on Ganesh. Gross and Kate's in the blinds. Jason Mercier first to act, and he's got 16 the hard way. Makes it 6,000 to go. And it's 2 6s for Ganesh. Now, Pather is up to over 300,000 in his stack, courtesy of that last pot. He's just going to call. And now Jeff Gross takes a peek at king-queen suited.
Nice looking starting hand for Jeff Gross here. I think most players would just call here with king-queen suited. It's a hand that plays pretty well post-flop. Obviously makes some strong one-pair hands and can make even a flush and a straight. I think the standard play is just to call.
24.
And Gross electing to 3-bet it from the small blind to a total of 24,000.
Jason folds 2 8s. That is really just an understanding of the particular player involved. I don't think Jason would have folded there to most of the other players, but Jeff, seen as a more conservative, more solid player, when he 3-bets like this, Jason feels like Jeff probably has a hand like ace-king or maybe a bigger pocket pair, but Jason just not in good shape against that range.
What's up, buddy?
Quite a raise, though.
Feels standard.
These standards. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think Pather really can do much or can necessarily glean much from a conversation with Jeff here.
I'll read my pair down.
Jeff has just made a nice sized raise, especially considering the amount of chips he has in total, and there's just not much Pather can do.
Well executed move pays off for Jeff Gross.
Yeah, a nice play there from Jeff, using his tight image to his advantage to get both players to fold the better hands.
And it's important to be aware of how you're being perceived at the table, not just your pre-existing reputation, but in this particular match.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's definitely true. And also, it's important to understand the other players that you're playing against. Jason, I think, is the type of player who doesn't want to take those types of marginal situations because he's so confident in his ability to chip up in small ways, winning smaller pots. He doesn't want to kind of, you know, be in a flip situation for a big pot. Someone like Philip Grusom, on the other hand, I don't think he would have folded 2 8s, even though he's able to recognize the same player-specific dynamic with Jeff there.
Picking up the action, it was folded around to Philip Grusom on the button, who had queen 6 offsuit. He's raised it to 6,000, and Eric Seidel looks at an ace and moves all in for 19 total.
I have a great hand, Eric.
You have a great hand.
It's gonna get ugly for you. Sorry. I only look at one card.
What's got the 9, 10, 9, 10
Oh,
suited?
I'm live.
Well, Philip has made the call, and he's already apologizing. He's going to need to improve to warrant that apology, though. Can he take the lead on the flop? He cannot. Seidel makes a pair of 7s, stays in control. Better than 4-1 favorite at this point, and the turn is a 3. Gruesome picks up some extra outs. He can hit a 5 or a queen. Anything else, and Seidel doubles up. It's a king. And the Poker Hall of Famer, Eric Seidel, lives to play another hand.
Our two-time Alpha 8 champion, Philip Gruesome, takes a big hit to his stack.
I'm not sure we've seen Philip Gruesome in this sort of situation in an Alpha 8 event. He is incredibly short-stacked at
I
this
think in
point.
London he was pretty short. He just happened to double up a couple times, and ultimately it worked out.
Well, it's time to pull another London rabbit out of his magic hat. More Alpha 8 when we return to Joburg.
King 10 is actually an interesting spot. I think it's probably pretty close, whether you want to call or fold.
How much is that?
Gross is asking for a count.
Is that like Phil Hellmuth? Like his last chips are pretty hard to get too.
Yeah, they're hardest to get, actually.
And Gross knows it's right on the edge of being appropriate to call or fold. And he settles ultimately on a call. Kate's out of the way.
No, this is a personal reason call.
Is it really?
I don't, no, I'm just kidding, but what do you got? I call you.
Wow, really? That's probably what you wanted to see.
Did this for my buddies in Houston. It's their favorite. King 10, they call it the taxi.
Jeff with the old personal reasons call.
Thought it could be good too, but.
Ace.
Here comes the flop. It's got a 3 in it. Philip still in the lead. He's hoping to dodge a king or a 10.
Call pre-flop.
So far, so good on the turn, but
I look like a 10.
Gross picks up some extra outs. He can now hit an 8 for a straight, or the king or the 10. Anything else, and Philip doubles up. Oh, it's a 10 on the end. And Philip Gruesome unceremoniously dispatched by Jeff Gross with an ugly river card, and Gruesome in somewhat unfamiliar territory alongside Lynn.
Well, Phil, I guess the last chips aren't really the hardest to get, huh?
Yeah, usually they are, but this time Jeff got me, so I'm a little bit sad.
You had a little bit of a sweat on the way out there. At least it wasn't too instant, I guess. Do you enjoy the sweat? No. Oh, well, you can't win them all. I guess that term definitely applies to you. Two-time champ already. You were going for your 3rd. You're a superstar here on Alpha 8. It is sad to see you go, though.
They wouldn't have respected me in Houston if I didn't call.
Well, the boys in Houston are going to be happy.
I think the rest of the players at the table are pretty happy too, as two-time champ Philip Gruesome has ultimately been dispatched here, and we're now 5-handed.
Getting closer and closer to the money. Two-time A8 champ Philip Gruesome reveals his secret to success while out on a South African safari. Log on to Club WP. Eric, open-ended straight draw for Jason. Seidel checking. Kanesh does the same. And Jason closes the action with a check as well and gets there on the turn.
A little bit of a surprising check by Jason. I think the main reason he does it is because of Eric's chip stack. He doesn't want to put chips in and have Eric raise or move in and then have to fold his equity or have to gamble to try to make his straight. Instead, he takes a free card and gets there. Great spot for him now as Eric leads with top pair.
6,000 is the number. Kanesh folds. And Jason is going to give Eric some rope. Just calls the 6,000. No flush draw to worry about on board. And that is actually not a great card for Jason as far as getting Eric to commit chips is concerned. You see it's an ace, and now Eric slows down.
Well, it's a little bit of a fake scare card. There aren't too many hands in Jason's range that have aces in them. Maybe a hand like ace deuce suited or ace 5 suited. But if Jason had a big ace, I think it's more likely he would have raised pre-flop to try to get Eric to commit his chips.
And Jason bets 19,000. You see Dan Harrington, the legendary poker player, hanging out in the background. He's Eric Seidel's travel companion on this trip.
I think the problem for Eric here is, well, obviously his chip stack. Jason's bet 19,000. It's a big bet and represents a lot of Eric's chips. But he's trying to put Jason on a hand. There aren't too many draws that Jason could have. There aren't too many worse hands that Jason would be betting here. So it's just tough for Eric to try to figure out what Jason has. And he does see that Jason turned to straight, and now Eric's going to be very short stacked.
Jack 8, Jack 9, 8, 9, something in that range. Might have been the only bluff catchers. And unfortunately, Seidel paying off. Very well executed play by Jason Mercier. And Eric is in just terrible shape. He's got only 15,000 left.
Yeah, with 5 big blinds, Eric going to be looking for any playable hand to move the rest of his chips in and hope to double up.
Jungle Man with 20 miles makes it 6,000 to go. Oh, 2 7s for Eric will earn the rest of his stack. He moves all in.
That's a lot. Probably not worth it, Jungle Man.
Eric trying to dissuade Daniel from a call. We know that's never happening with any 2 cards that Daniel opened with. But it just so happens that he's got Eric torched. Timing couldn't have been worse for Seidel.
Pairs. The 80-20s.
Here comes the flop. Eric looking for a 7. Oh, he's on either side of it. 8-6 deuce.
It's the right neighborhood.
This hand a little emblematic of how the entire tournament has gone for Eric, just not able to put anything together.
Looking for a couple of runners to a straight. Instead, the board pairs on the turn, and now he's got 2 outs. And that's not one of them.
All right, nice play with game, Eric. And guys, Jungle, good luck.
Thank you.
Eric Seidel, the man with over $20 million in live tournament earnings, says goodbye. But on the upside, he gets to chat with Lynn Gilmartin.
Well, Eric, how do you feel today went for you?
Not very well. Here I am on the rail.
Oh.
But that's the way it goes. It was an incredibly tough table.
Have you got any picks for who's going to win?
Well, I'm really impressed with Ganesh. You would expect that somebody from here who, doesn't have the experience that we all have playing with each other and playing under these conditions wouldn't be as composed and play as well as he does, but I thought he played terrific.
How are you seeing Jason? How's his performance today?
Well, Jason's a top tournament player. He's been in this situation so many times, and that helps a lot.
Sure does. And Jungle Man came in as chip leader. He's doing pretty well. What do you think?
Jungle Man, look, he's a great player, and he's more unpredictable, I think, than some of the other guys.
And of course, PBF, Jeff Gross.
PBF is a good player, but I don't think anybody would be surprised to see him win.
So we are officially on the money. Interesting one.
Yeah, I think one of the things that separates this money bubble from some of the previous ones we've had is how deep everyone is. The shortest stack here has still over 50 big blinds, so there's a lot of play and a lot of things